Hello guys, so today I want to talk about different kinds of covers that you can use in your garden. I was waiting with this video for quite some time because I want to use them first during the season and tell you how they work for me. So we're gonna cover today fleece, we're gonna cover insect netting, bird netting, ENVIROMESH, all kind of different things. So anyway, let's start with fleece. So this here what I've used is 70G fleece, which is the cheaper and less durable. The next in line, which is a bit more expensive, is 30G. What I can say about fleece is that it was very useful on the plot because it saved me a lot of time on hardening the plants, small seedlings, when I took them from the polytunnel to the outside. Fleece in general will cover your seedlings from the colder winds, and the 30G might even cover them from the frost. The bad thing about fleece is that it prevents 90% of the sun, which is not a big deal in the early spring because there is not much sun anyway, so you know they just keep seedlings warm. But then when we go into April in UK, you know, it's getting warmer and the seedlings could use more sun, and also the fleece prevents airflow, which, you know, might create some potential for the diseases. So another bad thing about fleece is that it tears down really easily, especially if you have plot. In my case, for example, I have a lot of foxes, birds landing on the fleece, and I usually find myself looking at many holes in the fleece when I come here after 1 week or two. So in practice it means buying new fleece every year. The type of the cover is bird netting. Again, the good size is that it's very cheap. So as you can see, for example, in my case, I'm using it for my lettuces and beetroots, and this is purely so that the birds will not come in and just nibble on the leaves. I'm also using it on my strawberries. So good about this netting is that it allows pollinators to enter and pollinate your plants, like, you know, flowers of the strawberries, for example. Also it allows a lot of beneficial insects like lacewing larvae, hoverfly larvae, parasitic wasps and ladybirds, which means that you might have actually some biological control of insects, where with some other covers, you know, they might not allow beneficial insects to enter. So all in all, very useful if you have, you know, fruits, if you have some leafy greens like lettuces and things like that. Next cover will be insect netting, and I'm using it on brassicas. The good thing is that it's very cheap and it's smaller. It has smaller mesh than the bird netting, so it will not allow pollinators to enter, but it still allows a lot of beneficial insects. The problem with it is that it is not very effective against you know, bad insects that you don't want. Like all the smaller insects like flea beetles, things like this, can easily go through. Also, if the leaves are touching the netting, you know, the butterflies, white cabbage butterfly can land on it and still lay the eggs, and you're gonna end up with caterpillars. So I'm using it because it was very cheap, and I just want to have it and see how it will do against better covers like ENVIROMESH. Okay, so the next type of cover I want to talk about is called ENVIROMESH or VeggieMesh. You know, it depends on the producer, they call it differently. ENVIROMESH, for example, was invented I think in 1991 in England, so there was a lot of years of improving it. What I bought is what you can see over there, is called VeggieMesh, and the most general one is the mesh size is 1.33 millimeters. So let's go through the good and bad things and different types of mesh. So what are the benefits of VeggieMesh? It doesn't allow many insects to get in, that's the first thing. So things like, for example, carrot fly, Alium Leaf miner, all these have harder time to get in. Now, also what the other good thing is that it allows 90% of the sun and 70% of the air. So you have really good condition. Also it creates this microclimate for plants to grow a bit better. Also what's the good is that you can water through it, you can feed plants through it, you don't have to take it off. Also good thing is that it's very durable, you know, it can last for many years if you look after it properly. Now what's the bad about it is that it's very expensive. So this piece that I have over there, which is like 10 meters on 1.8 meters, it was over 20 I think around 28 pounds. So very expensive stuff, but if you consider benefits and also that it lasts very long, you know, it might be good investment. VeggieMesh is not very good against all small insects. For example, I still have white fly, I still have green fly, I still have some flea beetle on my vegetables. Although when we have an early season and you know there are no predators in early season, just aphids, at that point you know I have much more aphids on my lettuces, which were just covered with the bird netting, comparing to the one that I had under ENVIROMESH. I didn't have any of those almost. So definitely helps, but it's not 100%. Another mesh I want to mention is fine mesh, which costs a bit more, and I think it's in the size 0.8 millimeters. And considering that aphids are coming in sizes from 1 millimeter, you know, it makes sense, assuming that to assume that they will not be able to come through. I didn't use it yet, but I heard that you know, you're not supposed to use it for longer than 8 weeks because it doesn't allow that much sun through, and also it creates those a bit damp conditions for plants, which encourage diseases. So also, to be honest, as I using my mesh, I found sometimes bigger holes. I don't know if this is done because of I placed the brick and maybe, you know, it make the hole, or maybe they were there when I bought it. Also, when you're weeding, you have to remove the cover, right? So all those situations, and you know, might get you some insects under the cover, which means that this fine mesh is not such a good protection anymore. But then again, I didn't use it. Maybe guys, you use it and you have a really good results with it. What I can say is that 100% protection from all the insects is polytunnel. So you know, at least I would rather stick to the regular ENVIROMESH, which is still expensive but not that expensive, and if I want to have 100% protection, I just grow anything in polytunnel. Now another alternative to ENVIROMESH, much cheaper, is scaffold netting. What's good about it is that it's very cheap. The bad things is that the mesh is even bigger, so it might have 2 millimeter size, which might mean that you have more insects coming through it. But as far as I read in the internet, people had some success with it. It's a bit heavier than ENVIROMESH as far as I heard, but you know, the price make it worth it to give it a try. Another thing worth to mention when you're using covers, you still should do rotation, because things like carrot fly and flea beetle can overwinter in the soil. So if you're gonna plant the same year after year, you know, even if you have a cover, all those larvae will just come out from the soil beneath the cover. Another thing about covers is that when you have very young seedlings, sometimes you might need to build some hoops just to prevent the netting laying on the seedlings, because sometimes it might just break their leaves. Another thing is that, at least in my case, I just put the netting on the plants when they are big enough, so I don't use any hoops anymore. And as far as I heard, there are mixed opinions about the cabbage, especially Cabbage White Butterfly. Some people saying that there is no possibility that it will lay the eggs through the ENVIROMESH, you know, when the leaf touch ENVIROMESH. Some people say it does, so that's what I'm testing this year. Maybe you have some experience with that, so do let me know. But I found it much easier to just put the you know, any kind of cover really on the plants rather than building hoop houses or any kind of constructions. It makes you also much more flexible, you know, with moving those covers from one bed to another. In my case, all my beds are exactly the same size, so I can buy bird netting, insect netting, ENVIROMESH in the same size and just rotate them between the beds as I need to. Alright, so that's gonna be it. Let me know if you're using any kind of covers. Maybe you're gonna have better ideas about it, but that's what I found out so far, and that's what I'm planning to do next year with them, so we will see. Anyway, that's all for now, and I see you next time, guys. Take care, bye.